Jacob Cantele. I'm head of product for MetaMask, and I'm excited to be a part of Reimagine 2020.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Reimagine 2020, the Halloween edition of Tales from the Crypto. This is our fourth event within the Reimagine series of conferences. I'll be your host today, Adam Leone, with the MouseBelt team. If you've missed out on any of our past three events, feel free to visit the Reimagine 2020 website. You can log in at ri2020.io for full access to over 150 interviews from some of your favorite projects and individuals in the space. Our main goal is to talk shop with the top projects and leaders in the industry to shed light and help us understand blockchain's real impact and innovation, advancements towards Web 3.0 and decentralized infrastructure for our future. Without further ado, I'll go ahead and introduce here Jacob from MetaMask. First of all, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us here on a Friday, kicking off Reimagine 2020, the Halloween edition. How you doing, Jacob? Nice to have you.
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Adam. I am pretty excited to get into it.
Yeah, awesome. I know MetaMask has a lot of things going on as of recent, which we'll tap into shortly. But let me go ahead and kick things off. I haven't interviewed MetaMask. I've met some contacts in the space here in San Francisco. We've chatted. MetaMask is a staple in the community, right? In the crypto space. But before we get into that, for some of those that don't know you, how did you get into blockchain? What's been your journey to kind of to lead you to where you're at now?
Yeah, so I've been a fan since the very early days. I mined one Bitcoin, and I think in 2011. And then I made a really dumb comment about like, oh, this made my room hot, I'm gonna turn this off. I followed the Ethereum launch. It blew my mind. I followed a number of the really early projects like back in 2015, 2016, and a lot of them didn't pan out, but they left me with this lasting impression that we could totally transform the way that the entire internet and financial system work. Even take what Bitcoin had done for money and do for the financial system and the internet generally. And when I was a really young teenager, I was really inspired by like the BitTorrent movement and stuff like that. And this just made so much sense to me. And my background is I was chief technology officer for a real estate tech startup, and we went through a process of acquisition and ended up in a certain Fortune 500 that has a dubious relationship with blockchain. And I did that for a short period of time, and then I left to work on a DAO at ConsenSys. Did that for about a year, and then came to do basically my ultimate life dream, which is MetaMask. And
so hold on. So hold on. So how did you come across Bitcoin in 2011 though? That's pretty early on.
Actually, my friend, who is now a very wealthy Bitcoin bro in LA, messaged me on AIM.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I didn't even know AIM was still around then.
I think it was like the end of AIM. Yeah. And he was like really into it. And then I think I sent him like the Buttcoins meme. I don't know if you remember that, but I made fun of him. And then I regretted that and realized that was a really dumb thing to do. But it was a wild time. And there were just so many waves of successive innovation and interesting things that were happening, and it captured my imagination.
And so from 2011 to 2014, when Ethereum was coming out, what were you doing then? Kind of just keeping arm's distance with Bitcoin? You're a tech guy, right? So were you kind of just following, emerging technologies? Do you follow anything else like AI, ML, or?
So I wasn't so active in that period of time. I was at a real estate tech startup. We built this marketplace that that made it really easy to sell difficult to value houses. So it was an auction marketplace that had really interesting mechanisms for price discovery. So we would we would protect the sellers by giving a discount to buyers to give a bid before the auction started. So
Nice.
it created this interesting set of economics that allowed fair market price with fair transparency for the seller. So they don't have to enter an auction where they're going to be harmed or something like that.
Yeah.
And so we launched that marketplace. We were on the Inc. 5000 for 5 years in a row. It kind of really absorbed a lot of my attention. But my real passion was outside of that, and I wanted to, my dreams going back to you know that BitTorrent era has always been to make a better internet and society, and I'm very excited to be a part of that.
Awesome. And then I think, which we'll dive into, I think some of that motivation and inspiration, right, is kind of what MetaMask portrays in its mission. Is that accurate to say? A better internet, right? A better future, a better web.
Yeah. So for me, like MetaMask, it's more than a wallet, and it's it's not just for me. Like for a lot of people, we're talking about Web3. We're talking about so if you take a step back and you look at how the internet has developed so far, we grew up on stories of how this is going to make a fairer society where we could all compete, where people had more free speech, and that society would become more democratic. And those kinds of things turned into Facebook, Google, Amazon, and Netflix came to monopolize our entire society. And really, with a product like Facebook or YouTube, Google, all of these products emerged with a particular business model because there was not a sustainable financial model for building a internet product. And so when you don't have a transactional layer on the internet, you don't have a way to have fair and ethical business models, it created this new data slavery economy. And creating a different version of how the internet works, where the user controls their identity or identities, has control over their data, their assets. They can easily make transactions to any different sites. And the reality of Web3 is, like, a lot of people think that the UX of crypto is like insurmountably more difficult for people compared to Web 2. But in reality, the Web 3 allows us to get rid of usernames and passwords and to have one common wallet that serves hundreds of sites. And I really believe that we're going to be able to create a user experience that's going to help the entire crypto ecosystem and the entire blockchain ecosystem to rebuild the whole internet. And I think it's going to come in waves, and I'm very, very excited and passionate about it.
Yeah, and you touch on some critical topics there and points as far as Web 3.0, and you even took it a step back. And we've been having these discussions here during Reimagine of data ownership, and we've been so accustomed to giving it up to the FANG, right, the FANG companies of the world, and we just got used to it. And although they did provide some benefits, there was just no infrastructure, right, to where we're at now regarding blockchain and how we can take back our ownership and our identities and like operate differently. And I think, you are right. Like, the infrastructure is being laid now. It's been, been being laid out for the last few years. And I think with a lot of the hacks and all that have been happening, and data vulnerabilities and stuff like that, I think a lot of society will come around to understand kind of the purpose. They should be paying us, and they should be, they take all of our data and sell it and use it at our expense, right? And I think a lot of the process that you guys are tackling is to kind of bring that back in, so that we can manage our identities and not just be another number, or be taken advantage from advertisements, from selling our information, right? And I think you guys are doing a good job there. So for those watching, and we have students, I don't know, across the world, that thousands of students, universities. We have some beginners. Obviously, we do have enthusiasts now, and we have investors watching the Reimagine show, or the conference. Give some insight into MetaMask and kind of its journey. It's been around a long time. It's a staple. It's like you said, it's not just a niche wallet. You guys are doing a lot of things, but let's kind of go back and have the audience here understand what MetaMask is, and what its purpose.
Yeah, so MetaMask has been around for about 5 years. It definitely predates my presence on the team. I've been with the team for about a year, almost a year. And so actually our two founders, Dan Finlay and Aaron Kamavis, or Aaron Davis, goes by Kamavis. They actually were both Apple employees, and they had heard about Ethereum, had their minds blown, and wanted to go and make an Ethereum dApp. And they couldn't because there weren't good wallets. And so they were originally just trying to make a wallet for one dApp, and ended up creating, thinking about browser extensions and thinking about ways that the wallet can interact with web applications, and really created something really special and innovative and in the process. And the product has sort of grown wave upon wave. So we just broke 1 million monthly active users. We launched on mobile this year as well, just about a little over a month ago. And
I think and we'll touch on the million users and the mobile function, but right now well, not right now, but it was a desktop, right, wallet, accurate?
yeah, so it's a browser extension wallet. So that's installed in Firefox or Chrome/Chrome fork.
And it's also important to note that, as you mentioned, kind of how MetaMask was born into. There was a problem, really, and there's still some user experiences challenges and barriers, and everybody's tackling it at the moment. But I think it's important to note that, like, we're so used to going back to the Web 2.0 of us giving up information, but just the process to log in, transfer, you forget a password, you can retrieve all that, and we're kind of used to that experience. And I think MetaMask touches on that, where, as you mentioned, you just log in, and now it's compatible with the Ethereum blockchain and a lot of the applications and dApps built on that. Is that right?
Yeah. So one of the things that stands out to me about MetaMask is that we've tried to build a wallet for the entire decentralized web. We haven't. I know some wallets have tried to be like a wallet for one app, or a wallet that maybe has five sites hard coded into it, or something like that. We've taken a different approach, which is to serve universality, to serve the whole ecosystem. And so we created this browser extension as the first way to do that. And the user can interact with, they can play a video game, they can join a community or a DAO, they can collect artwork, they can make a loan or get a loan using DeFi applications. And by sort of taking that critical mix of not being a use case wallet or something like that, and instead serving the whole ecosystem, we're able to create more value for the whole ecosystem. And so it compounds. Like gamers get to discover DeFi, and DeFi people get to join communities, and those kinds of different that feedback loop. It's very similar to the feedback loop that the internet itself had in its early days.
And let's talk about some of the pros. There's a lot of good stuff regarding MetaMask, and I'll touch on a couple of them. Like it's open source. Private keys are kept on the browser, local key storage. It's easy to use. It's built-in coin purchasing, right? You can tap into any ER. It's obviously ERC20 compatible across the Ethereum blockchain, and it's functioning. So it definitely, as you mentioned, taps into the network effects of the Ethereum blockchain and providing value that way. Can you touch on some of these pros, like the open source, the private key, like local storage, and we can start there.
Yeah, so in terms of open source, I do want to just mention we have a hybrid approach. So we produce a lot of open source libraries and dependencies for the ecosystem. And then all of our code is open to inspection. We have a bit of a hybrid approach with the completed extension client itself. So that has a super permissive license, and it's free to fork for people. And it's free to inspect. For users that are over a certain monthly active user limit, we do reserve the right to have like licensing fees and stuff like that. But in terms of our approach, it's to create the most secure wallet and the most universal wallet. That's our basic value proposition. We are also providing compatibility for hardware wallets and forms of cold storage like that, so that people who are super concerned about security can also get exposure to the whole ecosystem of Web3 and all of the compounding value and excitement that's going on there.
And I think that's important to note as far as it being like a hot wallet, right? For maybe some of those not, or just kind of getting up to speed here. MetaMask is a hot wallet. And what you're saying on the hardware integration, that provides offline, I guess what we call cold storage. So you kind of get the best of both worlds.
I do believe that in the future, the distinction between hot wallets and cold wallets will not be a thing. But
Why is that?
It's for a future conversation. But I think that we're gonna do some really exciting things in terms of security that are going to make it so that a wallet like MetaMask will have as good as or even better security than a hardware wallet.
And that's fair to say. Like what you're saying, and this kind of goes to the like user experience too. It's like we got, we're used to trusting centralized parties, right, that I would let them kind of deal with my information, and I'll retrieve it. If I lose it, forget it. I could always count on them. But what you're saying, and right now in crypto, what's that saying? Like, not your keys, not your tokens, or
not your keys, not your coins.
Not your keys, not your coins. And it makes sense, but that's kind of a hassle too, because now again, this industry is owning, self-sovereign identity, self-sovereign bank, like your own bank, but that comes with a lot of responsibility of knowing where your keys are, and maintaining that organization. And you lose them. So it's good to know at a high level what you're saying down the road, that you think there's a solution that you're going to provide that will help lower that barrier, or that kind of mindset of, hot and cold storage, you think you can provide a cool solution, which makes sense. I think that adds to the flow of crypto, like onboarding the masses, the unbanked
Yeah, exactly.
people in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah, you were saying some good stuff there, and which kind of was going to lead into, and why was it launched on the desktop first? And this is pre you, before you got on, but maybe you have some insight or that you can share there.
Yeah, so doing Web3 as a browser extension um, was one of the easiest and most accessible ways to do it. I don't know if you know much about the history of the Ethereum ecosystem, but there were full web browsers before MetaMask that predated MetaMask, where the assumption was that um, the user would have to have a whole separate browser to be able to interact with these applications. And MetaMask made that easy inside of the existing browser infrastructure that people already had. There's a lot of challenges with mobile wallets or developing mobile wallets. Like browsers are a lot of work. They cost a lot of money to develop, and they're mostly not profitable.
Yeah,
And it's a very difficult industry. And uh, and also Google Chrome has no extensions on mobile. So there's a lot of challenges like that where the mobile ecosystems are a lot more locked down, and so a lot of thought had to go into the user experience of bringing Web3 to mobile, and we're really excited to make a lot of breakthroughs on that. Our actually when we launched our mobile app, in the first month of growth on the mobile app, we actually surpassed the peak of users on the extension from 2019.
wow.
So and the extension has grown massively this year as well, but we saw tremendous growth on mobile, and I do believe that mobile is going to be,
Yeah.
probably the future. There's a lot of we're seeing a huge growth among users in countries like India, the Philippines, Nigeria, um,
And yeah, let's touch on that. That's kind of where I was leading, as far as kind of the journey of MetaMask, right? And it being a browser, an extension. And there was an evolution during, 5 years ago, right? And I think that is the evolution at that point was, a separate web browser. Well, why not? Let's kind of integrate it into existing, Web 2 infrastructure, for the average user kind of is familiar with this process. And so that was obviously successful. Now here we are. You just launched the mobile app, and you reached 1 million active users, which we could probably go on for days on the various data, how we break that down. But what you're saying is on the mobile, the 1 million active users are from mobile.
Yeah. So sorry, 1 million monthly active users is actually our cumulative monthly active users.
Okay.
But the mobile app has broken 250,000 monthly active users.
Great. That's what I thought. That's what I thought, and I thought I heard like it was just on mobile, but I was like, interesting. But no, that's kind of and to even go. And I don't want to cut you off, but you're going to talk about kind of these other countries, right? Like that follow the U.S., the Philippines, Nigeria, India, and I think this plays in. It's good timing, one, and I think it plays into, and we've heard this for quite some time on these frontier emerging markets, leapfrogging traditional infrastructure as far as cables and like how we know, we have cable underground, right? They kind of went to 5G and they're all on their phone. So I think you're playing into that wave of adoption for these users, correct?
Yeah. So that's interesting. Like in most tech products and in most of what we've seen in the last 20 years has been a start of things that are relatively decentralized, and then the consolidation and sort of monopolization, and especially there's been a lot of challenges for people in developing countries to have access to good technology, to be locked out of financial systems, and to experience you know all kinds of the challenges of our international financial system. And for users, for example, in Nigeria, you have a particular phenomenon where you have a very large diaspora, and many people need to send money back home to their family. You have, CoinDesk had a great piece last week about the political repression and police killings that have been happening in Nigeria, and people there are seeing blockchain products as a way to have freedom and independence, and it's very tied to the political movement that they have there.
And that goes into, yeah, you're right, and that goes into like a lot of the developing world doesn't, we're used to the dollar, right? We're used to Venmos, we're used to kind of having a bank account and stuff like that. But people think of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as just made up money, but they underestimate still the rest of I forget the number, there's 7 billion people, and like 4 billion have like no bank accounts, or have no access to financial, as you mentioned earlier, financial products, instruments to leverage. And so, for our audience, like tuning into this stuff, it's like, it's pretty critical if you're not, if you're used to your own fiat, which is my new term now, in the last few years,
Yeah.
fiat, you're used to the dollar, you're used to the euro, whatever it is. But these other countries, like you just mentioned, and I'll let you continue on, but it's very important for, the audience to understand, like there's these regions that leverage blockchain technology. It's not just made up money. It gives them access from their phone or internet.
Yeah, that's right. Like it's for people, I think DAOs are going to be one of the most important institutions of how democracies will be organized in the future, and for people all over the world to start being able to form new kinds of communities and new forms of collaboration and coordination. I think it's incredibly exciting. I have no idea where it will go, but it deeply inspires me.
What's interesting, and we'll dive into like these 1 million, these users, and we can go at a high level too. We'll talk about tons of users now, tons of engagement globally, and then just even tap on these specific markets. And just for this discussion, the Philippines, India. What does that tell us? What kind of information is that offering us in terms of cryptocurrency, or what you're working on? But yeah, what does that shed light on?
So so there's a few interesting things I can share about that. We're doing a study right now with an organization called Emerging Impact that is we're doing user research interviews with MetaMask users in various different countries, and in particular we're trying to get a grasp on how we better serve those users. In terms of some patterns that emerge, those are countries that have strong diasporas, and where people are have often moved to the United States or Europe, and need a way to send money back home to their families, or they're surviving in a crisis scenario, like what's happening in Nigeria. And those are pretty powerful stories, and we're conducting a lot of interviews and hearing people's stories, and they're really deep and profound. in terms of,
And where's that coming from as far as education, understanding? Is that coming from the outside in? I'm sure it's a little bit of hybrid, and maybe we don't have exact data, but maybe from your perspective, like, you know, you still have those. It's different. It's a paradigm shift. So,
yeah,
you hear the stories of like, why would this work in these regions? Like, they want cash or tangible, right? Tangible um, tangible items to exchange, barter, whatever. And we're talking about like internet money, transfer of value, online.
right.
Where's the understanding like this can make a difference or impact them? Is it coming from like the rest of the world? Is it coming from internal? Like it's that bad that they need to find other means?
So I think that I will be able to speak to this a lot better once we've completed that study.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
actually going to publish a report on it. One of the challenges that we have is we're so privacy centric that we don't actually get, like, for example, I can't tell you, I have no idea and don't have access to data about what Nigerian users do specifically, for example, or what users in India are doing. Um, but we have gotten in touch with groups of users, and so we're doing a study in that way. We do get some data about, um, like, we have aggregate data, like most users go to, most of our transactions are on such and such site. Like, we can see that kind of stuff, but we don't have personally identifiable information in our product.
yeah.
Um,
Makes sense. Makes sense. But from just like, I guess from the mindset of I want cash, gold, or I want my local currency. Where's that I'm going to use my phone now? Do you? And I'm assuming it's between like it's generational. So I'm assuming it's still between like 18 and 32. And again, we're speculative. Like I have no hard facts either, other than the discussions I've had of these demographic groups. But I'm assuming it's younger population, people
yeah,
with phones that I guess are more open, right, to using a cryptocurrency and online money, transmission, as opposed to I want my rupees, or I want USD. And obviously there's still that percentage of people that will not, that think this is useless. But I mean, obviously there's users and everybody's active around it. So I'm just kind of, you get your thoughts on where that's coming from.
yeah. Um, I think that there's been a lot of major changes that have happened in the world. COVID has shifted certain things. Faith in endless uh, inflation seems to be at historic lows. Um, and people are looking for new ways of relating to one another, and I don't think that that's, um, there's not a singular answer to that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, the
It's
Bitcoin
complicated.
community has their own set of, their own framework. It's a little bit different than how I view the world. Um, the and then, Ethereum is like a platform by which people can design smart contracts and new communities and new rules and markets that operate the way that people want them to. And, like, Circle's UBI and people creating like a totally decentralized universal basic income. Like, it's just so many really amazing experiments. And uh, I I think that we'll learn a lot more um, about your question as
Yeah,
time
yeah.
goes. Yeah.
What inning do you think, if this was a baseball game, what kind of inning is crypto in general? Like, inning, and third inning, sixth inning, we haven't even started the game. How early, or are we on track? Like from what you're seeing from products and features and, utility?
I think it's very early days. I think that um, the the amount of value and innovation that can be built on top of these platforms is compounding. So, like, if you think of like even, I don't know, half of the use cases that people did this year. Most of them were not possible even a year ago. Like,
And what are some of those, like yield farming or like aggregators, or we're talking about DeFi stuff, or even non-DeFi?
well, so in order for a lot of the DeFi stuff to happen, there had to be a faster pace of innovation for people to launch tokens and to create communities around those tokens. And that only really became possible with decentralized exchanges and sort of the interplay between the decentralized exchanges and all of these other applications. Like, it was critical. And in fact, centralized exchanges are not that well fit for an ecosystem that is innovating so quickly. And like, people are creating tokens for a community of 5 people, or they're making a personal token to share with their friends that represents some, like, hey, this is a bit of my time, pay me back on this. Or, like, people are doing all kinds of interesting experiments. And like, the 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 basis to do that, you need a fully decentralized ecosystem where people can innovate truly at scale and speed. And that 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 kind of a thing was not possible until very recently. Um,
What makes a DEX, like, to what degree is a DEX decentralized? What's the bare minimum?
well, so DEXs are different in the sense that there is not a central entity that's providing uh, that's providing a treasury of funds. You or I or anyone can add liquidity to Uniswap, and we can earn the transaction fees that go through such a DEX. Um, the the DEX space also, it's persistent regardless of whether or not the Uniswap front end exists. So, like, even if Amazon, to take to dispel a certain myth I read on Twitter a few weeks ago, if Amazon decided to shut down all of these websites, those smart contracts would still exist, and anyone can host a website to connect to a decentralized exchange. And in fact, if if you, Adam, you wanted to launch a Uniswap front end, maybe with your own analytics on it, and you wanted to promote your own unique approach or community, you could launch your own Uniswap and attach a forum to it, let people discuss it. I mean, we aggregate Uniswap and MetaMask with our own unique swaps solution that we just launched. And not just Uniswap, we actually we're aggregating DEXs, and we're aggregating DEX aggregators, which is really critical to making sure that people get the best price. And I'm happy to tell you a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and we'll jump into that right now. And what you're talking about on the decentralized front, the Web 3.0, the infrastructure, kind of like what we're working with, it's basically composability, like being able to leverage a lot of these protocols and a lot of the infrastructure to build products that, like you said, like spurs innovation, right? And things that we couldn't build last year, we can build this year. And everybody's just, it's happening at rapid speed. And now, yeah, let's talk about kind of this DEX aggregator and aggregator of DEXs.
DEXs and DEX aggregators.
Yeah. So let's break that down. This is kind of a new thing.
I'll tell you the story of it and how we arrived there. So going back, I don't know, 2 months ago, yeah, early August, 2.5 months. We wanted to put a DEX aggregator in MetaMask. So there are a lot of them, and they all have their own pricing methods. So when you use a DEX aggregator, the DEX aggregator splits your order across all of the available liquidity sources that it has. So Uniswap, Kyber, AirSwap, a whole diversity of them. And the aggregator, it tries to get the user the best price. It will split the order across the liquidity sources. It will figure out how to optimize different routes that minimize the gas costs. But each of them is extremely opinionated. And what we found when we did a study to figure out which one was the best and to choose one. And what we ended up with was a graph that was basically a bar chart. And there was some variation, like some of the DEX aggregators were slightly better than others. But in the main, they performed wildly differently under different circumstances. Like we saw like price swings up to like 5%, huge like users being subjected to tremendous amounts of slippage,
Yeah.
which, you know, slippage is where you're pulling from not enough liquidity. And so the price moves in the middle of your order and you end up losing a lot of money. And you know, we also like we want to provide swaps to help people join communities and to help people participate in games and all of this other Web3 things. Like we think that swaps are really critical to that, and we need to have that in the wallet. So what we came up with, one of our colleagues who's actually part of the AirSwap team, which is now part of ConsenSys Codify. He made something called Aggregator, and it was a simple web app that just took all the aggregators together, pinged each of them, and it found which was the best order, and then it routed the user's order based on that. And we took that. We had to do a lot after that, but we ultimately wound up with this product inside of MetaMask. It's available in Firefox today. It'll be available in Chrome next week, potentially.
How long is the development process? Like 2.5 months or about 4-6 weeks?
Yeah, it's been more or less.
Yeah.
But we've created a great user experience for swaps. We've tried to make it a lot more accessible to more people. We don't see ourselves as being in competition with the DEXs. We see ourselves as actually increasing the bandwidth to them, and bringing more user types to them.
Does it hold them accountable too, in a way, to like develop like their best product too? Like, you know, if you're aggregating and you're looking for the best, obviously when you scan the field, you know, there's going to be some competition, but I'm assuming that helps them build better features and products, right? Like holds them accountable.
If they are optimizing gas best, then more orders will route to their specific source. So it does create a fairer market among DEXs, and helps reward liquidity providers and DEXs alike, and it helps grow the whole DEX ecosystem, so that the DEX ecosystem can compete with the centralized exchanges. Because a lot of times someone using a DEX will not get the best price. If you just go directly to a DEX, you're very unlikely to. So it's important to maximize, to have the most liquidity possible for the user, to make sure that we're protecting them from bad orders.
And is this from where did this come from again? Maybe I didn't quite catch at the beginning, but like, is this a demand from the MetaMask users? Is this a demand in a feature to provide the best value for the user? How did it spawn up, I guess? Because as you mentioned, there's DEXs, there's aggregators. You were doing your thing. Where did it come from? Is this kind of a demand, or is this kind of a feature that you want to provide to, you know, obviously keep your users happy?
So the number one thing that people do in MetaMask is send money to somebody else. That is almost every month in the history of our product. It's been, you know, a simple, like, simple payment transaction from one account to another. But then after that, the thing that's the most popular that people do is swaps. Um, and and then after that, you see stuff like DeFi and gaming and communities. And we we looked at that, and we wanted to create the most universal product, but then also the product that really helps people discover the whole of Web3. And so we wanted those kinds of features to be more available to people, and to really make a great, simple, delightful user experience around doing swaps.
Is,
So
is this a revenue generator too, a little bit?
it is, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's actually not the first thing we've ever generated revenue with in MetaMask. We also make a really small amount of revenue from we we
Spreads.
we aggregate we aggregate fiat to crypto on ramps. So when somebody wants to buy Ether or they want to buy DAI, they can do that through our aggregator. The best one we have is on mobile. It's aggregating Wire, Transact, and some other stuff. And so basically, what it does is when you go to buy, let's say you want to buy ETH, based on the country that you're in, and also eventually like based on the payment method that you want to use, we're going to refer you to the best way to buy crypto. And it's the same kind of a thing with MetaMask swaps. We're trying to create a market for helping people to onboard into the ecosystem and to find them the best rates that are appropriate for the country that they live in.
Yeah, makes sense. No, that sounds like a great feature, great product. Are you looking to expand away from ERC20s or Ethereum off the chain, like other protocols or coins?
We do believe in a multi-chain future. It's really important to us. So we're launching something that is called MetaMask Snaps. It is a set of APIs that let you extend MetaMask and install a custom blockchain, install a layer 2 solution, install a notification system or a custom name system, install dashboards and notification systems. Like, we want to not be a bottleneck for people. Like, we don't want to be in the business of just developing a bunch of custom features. We want to be in the business of allowing others to build on top of MetaMask and to extend it and to do the things that they want to do.
And are you talking about like EVM compatible or just any like
any blockchain? Like I think there's 2 different dev teams that have made Bitcoin snaps already under our snaps beta. So you can install that and put MetaMask inside of your. Put Bitcoin inside of your MetaMask. Yeah. But you can't. I mean, maybe you can put MetaMask inside of Bitcoin, but so those plugins are an important part of the future of the product.
Nice. No, that's cool. I mean, I think again, the expansion, the growth, I think we eliminated we eliminate some users, some of the market, with some of the products and features, but it's understandable. I mean, again, we're at the beginning, things are going to take time to kind of roll out. But no, I mean, we've touched on a lot of things. I know we're coming up, we got like 3 minutes. We've touched on a lot of things, really kind of MetaMask's journey, the features and new kind of user-friendly, motivation and inspiration, such as swaps, such as snaps, such as, down the road, like this hybrid hot and cold storage, a lot of things, I'm assuming, for the last few years, people question. I just asked you about like kind of operating on different blockchains, and it looks like it's all in the mix, right? And I think your team's been working, pretty hard. What do you do on the day-to-day? So like, what's your role in all of this?
I do product and operations. So I'm a lean startup person. So I I help the, I like to, both in our team and generally, I'm a huge advocate of people thinking about MVPs and thinking about cultures of value creation. So like traditional cultures are all about maximizing for like micromanagement of people or just how much productivity you can get. But instead, with Lean Startup, we can build a much more collaborative culture, and one that is focused on how do we create the most value and how do we learn in a feedback loop with real users as quickly as we can. So I do product, like I help the team think about product decisions, pick things to prioritize, help figure out what the product should do and not do. Um, and then I do operations and business things as well. But.
Nice, yeah. And just to wrap it up, what are your thoughts on the recent news? Obviously, MetaMask 1 million users came out, just recently, but also like MicroStrategy or like Square, purchasing from the reserves, like 50 million Bitcoin, and I forget what the other one was, 500 million or something like that. What are your thoughts on some of these? Are they ahead of their time? I mean, we're in this bubble, so I was just like, oh, that's cool. It's about time. But I think on the outside looking in, they're like, what are you doing? Or
I think that in the Bitcoin world, people buying Bitcoin is really the only thing that you can do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that's fine. Like that. I don't like. I think it's important. It's meaningful that people in major institutions and companies are seeing maintaining a treasury of decentralized assets and permissionless assets as important to the future. I think it is a positive and healthy thing. I am excited for it. I think such companies should also buy Ether and should also consider holding stable coins and all of those kinds of things.
And you think the value for Ether is coming from the application side, the applications, the a lot of the features of staking and locking up and lending drives value to the Ethereum network?
So I do actually like I think that we'll see that compound in the future as well as Ethereum itself becomes, or as ETH becomes more useful. And I think that many different innovations are going to be a part of that. WBTC is a great project. And other,
which is wrapped Bitcoin.
Yeah, wrapped Bitcoin, TBTC. Like I think that Bitcoin will have a role on and so will a lot of other blockchains. And yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, I think we could probably go on for days here. It was a pleasure, and I hope we could have you back. I think as we kind of continue discussions and we have updates, would love to have you back either as a moderator, a host, another guest, maybe a panel. Very insightful, and appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us. And many of our viewers, right? They're kind of global, they're international. I forget the date on it, but across 25 countries, we've had, I don't know, over 250,000 views. So it's been good to have you, and I appreciate you kind of taking your time out of your day here to join us, in a later afternoon. And we hope to have you back.
Thanks so much, Adam. I really appreciate you.
No problem. So, for all of you tuning in to watch Jacob and I's discussion, we talked about MetaMask and its future, bright future, a lot of features catering to the users, providing utility. I mean, the list goes on, right? And I think what's important, what I take away from this is like they're identifying a lot of the use case, or they're identifying a lot of the users globally, how they're using it, why they're using it. as far as aggregation goes, and just the purpose behind it and tailoring MetaMask to our needs. And there's a lot of niche users, and then there's the masses that quite haven't used this product yet. But I think what they have already is suitable for someone's parents to use, from logging on, what they're used to on the day to day. So without further ado, again, thank you for joining us. We hope to have you back, and I'll talk to you soon, Jacob.
Thank you so much, Adam.
Have a good one.